guys. Hi, we are reporters from China Daily, and today we are going to do a live broadcast about South China Sea God Temple, which is one of the 4 temples, Sea God temples, existed in China. And my name is Xin. I'm your co-host today.
And I am Eric. So this is the only surviving temple out of the 4 that were constructed in ancient times for the sea gods, who would serve many functions, but largely they offer protection for sailors at sea. And so again, this place has a lot of history, much of it true, some of it myth. And it was a major port of the Maritime Silk Road in ancient times. It had several routes during the Tang Dynasty. It had 6 routes, and the routes that it's had throughout history have gone as far as the Persian Gulf, Africa, and even Northern Europe. Now, this temple is also called the Pineapple Temple, and it takes this nickname from a legend in which there was an emissary who came from the Pala Empire to China. And when he arrived at the temple, he planted 2 pineapples, and he also spent a long time lingering here praying. However, he overstayed his time, and the ship that brought him ended up departing without him.
And now we're going to the main building of this temple, and you can see this is the gate of the temple.
And so for this emissary then, he, according to the legend, spent the rest of his days standing by the shore, hoping that the ship would return to bring him home. However, it never returned. And so in the end, he ended up spending the rest of his life standing by the shore, wailing, wishing to go home. And by the time that he had passed away, the locals ended up staging a very respectable funeral for him, and they ended up erecting a statue of him dressed as a Chinese official, and he was posthumously awarded the title Lord of Daxi. And the 2 pineapples that he planted are said to have grown to become very large, and hence this nickname, the Pineapple Temple. Now, that story is a legend, but a very interesting, true piece of history starts in 1731, when Guangzhou and Gothenburg, Sweden, established a trade route, and it took 18 months to travel between the 2 destinations, 18 months each way. And there was a wooden ship called the Gothenburg, and on its 3rd voyage, about 900 meters off of the coast of Gothenburg, Sweden, it struck a reef and it sank. And in 2005 then, a replica of the Gothenburg traveled overseas to Guangzhou for 9.5 months And when it arrived, the King and Queen of Sweden also visited this temple, and when they were here, they made offerings to the sea, and they prayed for peace and prosperity and friendship between the two countries, and also for safe passage for all people who travel by sea. So if you have any questions about this temple, please ask us, let us know, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can.
So for friends who just joined us, we are reporters from China Daily, and we are now doing a live broadcasting about South China Sea God Temple, and we are now in the very core building of this temple, and we will show you around about this temple. And if you have any questions related to the culture or the history of the temple, just comment on to let us know, and we'll try to answer them.
And so again, this temple is located in Guangzhou, which is the provincial capital of Guangdong province in southern China, and it is also the host of the 2017 Fortune Global Forum. All right. So this temple is 1,400 years old, and it is the only surviving temple of the 4 that were created for sea gods in ancient China. Now, it was also a major port of the ancient Maritime Silk Road. So at the peak, there were 6 routes that departed from this temple. That was during the Tang Dynasty. The Tang Dynasty in China was a period of great prosperity and extraordinary wealth, and much of this came from international trade. Now, the longest route, or one of the longer routes that came from this temple at one point, traversed 90 countries in 89 days, and it exceeded 14,000 kilometers. However, other routes went even further. They went as far as the Persian Gulf, Africa, and even Northern Europe. Now, here we can see a stele, and this is a stele of an emperor from the Ming Dynasty. Now, this stele is interesting because it's on the back of what looks like a turtle, but actually, this is one of the sons of the Dragon King, and its name is Bei. Now, you see it has a shell like a turtle, and each of the Dragon King's sons has something kind of akin to a superpower. And Bei's superpower is that Bei is able to hold very heavy things on its back. So in China, you will often see a Bei with something like a large stone stele, engraved stele on its back, because Bei is capable of withstanding such a burden. Now, this temple is also colloquially known as Pineapple Temple, and one of the reasons for this is an ancient legend about an emissary that came from the Pala Empire to Guangzhou in ancient times. And this emissary came here and planted 2 pineapples and stayed to pray. And however, the emissary ended up spending too long at the temple, and the ship that brought him and was supposed to take him back home departed before he had come back. So the legend goes that he stood by the shore for the rest of his life, leaning on a crutch and wailing and just hoping that the ship would return to take him home. However, it never did. So, after he passed away, the locals gave him a quite splendid funeral, and they erected a statue of him dressed as a Chinese official, and he was, in fact, posthumously awarded an official title as Lord Daxi. And the 2 pineapples that he planted grew to become quite large. And so, this is where this nickname, Pineapple Temple, comes from. Now, there's a true piece of history that's also quite interesting. In 1731, Guangzhou and Gothenburg, Sweden, created a new trade route. And so the maiden voyage for this trade route was undertaken by a wooden ship. It's a namesake ship called the Gothenburg. And this ship, during its 3rd voyage, about 900 meters off of the coast of Gothenburg, struck a reef and sank. So, in 2005, a replica of Gothenburg was sent from Gothenburg to Guangzhou, and the King and Queen of Sweden arrived. They participated in ceremonies, they made sacrifices to the sea, and they prayed for prosperity, peace, and friendship among the 2 countries, as well as safe passage for all people traveling by sea. And here we can see a statue of the South China Sea god.
This is the wife of the sea god, Xi Temple.
And so what we are looking at right now is the gate to the hall that honors the wife of the sea god, that is specifically the South China Sea god. And here we can see people who are praying to the wife of the South China Sea god.
Yeah, sure. Which one is it? Over there?
Okay. So for friends who just joined us, we are actually about to end this live, and thank you for staying with us. Please follow China Daily's Facebook and Twitter accounts to get more information about China and Chinese culture. And I'm your co-host today. Bye bye.
Hey, bye bye.